7:43, new on Daybreak, a conversation about the state of the FBI with the outgoing leader of the Bureau here in Indianapolis.
Special agent in charge of the Indianapolis division, Jay Abbott, will be retiring at the end of this week. Very long career he's had. Brittany Lewis was actually able to sit down with him and talk with him just ahead of his retirement.
Yeah, a very long and very fascinating career. Special agent in charge, Jay Abbott, is wrapping up his 30-year career during a time when the president and some lawmakers have raised concerns about political bias in the FBI. I asked him about that. You're leaving at a time when the FBI is certainly under a lot of scrutiny, especially from the president, his allies, members of Congress. What has that been like for the people working in your division? How do you keep morale up when things like that are happening?
Thanks for asking that. And that is a really difficult thing right now. And at the national level, there are some difficult decision-making going on, and we'll have to let it play out. But certainly here in the FBI's Indianapolis division and in all the agents and professional staff and intelligence cadre around the state, my message to them is every day you're working, you are building trust and serving the American people. You're building trust with everybody you come into interaction with, and they believe in you. And they look to the FBI as being that entity that they can trust. And that's what you have to take faith in. You have to go forward continuing to do that and know that the people that you're serving believe in you and trust you to do the job that the FBI is supposed to do. And that is, in all earnestness to protect the American people while most importantly, upholding the Constitution. I mean, how we do things is just as important as what we do. And when it comes to that, I mean, we've all taken an oath. And out in the field and out in the divisions, all 56 field offices across the country, I think they take confidence from knowing that. The people they interact with, they are building trust with, and that trust is extended back to us. And we do everything we can not to betray that trust.
Speaking of trust, some of the specific criticisms have been that the FBI has been used as a political tool. Can people watching this trust that that is not the case?
No, it's a great question, and we're really in unprecedented times. Former Director James Comey was fired by the President. That's never happened before. He was only our 7th director in the 110-year history of the FBI. And one of the concerns that we in the FBI have is that after J. Edgar Hoover, and of course he was the director for 48 years, they determined they needed to curtail the limits, but they did it to a 10-year term. In that 10-year term, it's a very extended term, after they're politically appointed, unlike other political appointees, they don't turn in their resignation at the change of an administration. And the reason for that is so that they have the autonomy to investigate the executive branch if necessary. And so when his firing occurred, it was a very concerning time for those of us within the FBI. We watched very closely the confirmation hearings for our current director, Christopher Wray, and were very heartened by his response over and over and over again. When he was asked, if you were asked to do something wrong or something politically biased, what would you do? And his remark every time was, I would try to convince them that that was not the course of action we should take, and if I was forced to try to do something like that, I would resign.
We had about an hour-long conversation, so I had a chance to talk to him about a number of other topics, including some of the major cases in his career. Really fascinating stuff, including 2 not long after he joined the FBI that actually involved the deaths of agents he knew, and that really impacted the decision he made and the path he took in his career and where he ended up.
Few people, whether the FBI even had the lead on it or not, but few people would know the many high-profile cases in our area better than he has. Did he comment on any of those that sort of leaped to mind as unsolved cases?
Yeah, so the unsolved one, of course, that he says is going to stick with him for some time until it is unsolved are the deaths of Abby Williams and Libby German, of course. They're in Delphi. And he also talked to me about another regret that he has is the increasing homicide rate in Indianapolis. He told me that the collaboration between IMPD and the FBI is some of the best. And he is just kind of frustrated with that and wonders what maybe could have done better how it will turn out. So
fascinating. I know you and I were speaking just earlier, even before the show started. He had said that this position in Indianapolis is one of the most sought after within the agency.
Yeah, he said it was like an arm wrestling match to get this one, because he said they're so productive here. They do so many cases, and they are so respected. And the agents in Indianapolis, they travel internationally to work on cases. So
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Fascinating conversation. Thanks
Much more
very
at
much.
9.
Good.
It's 7:49 right now.